Hello, sounds. This is... Hi there. It's Mark in the commentary box, just looking down at the grid here at the Hungaroring ahead of round 8 of the 2018 TCR Europe season. How's that? Hello and welcome to a dry but overcast and very humid and warm Hungaroring ahead of our coverage of round 8 of the 2018 TCR Europe Series. You're very welcome along, folks, wherever you are in the world watching. It's Mark James in the commentary box once again to take you through this afternoon's action. And that's what I was saying. 50% humidity, there or thereabouts, a 45-degree track temperature, 25 degrees air temperature. It feels warmer than that because of that humidity. And that cloud cover suggests that there may well be a thunderstorm or two rumbling around the Budapest area. Fingers crossed we will avoid it for the next half an hour or so. All 24 cars entered for this race will take the starting grid. No issues. A couple of bumps and bangs yesterday, if you were with us for round 7 of the series. A couple of non-finishes and a couple of rather sorry-looking cars and a few stories to tell being played out in the social media and also the touring car websites overnight. And I'm sure there'll be more stories yet to come from round 8 of the series. Danny Nage there, you see 999, very much the local hero. Lots of fans wandering around with Danny Nage t-shirts on. Also, of course, Mira, the local team, set up by Norbert Mikulic, and it's one of their cars that'll be on pole position for this reversed grid for race 2. Francisco Mora in the 26 Hyundai. Team boss Norby is around this weekend. He was officiating yesterday, handing out prizes and the like. And in fact, 2 out of the top 3 runners on the grid are Portuguese. This is the exception. Julien Brichet had that penalty yesterday for that contact with Attila Tashi, which dropped him from 4th down to 16th. There is Brichet himself, a little wave for the camera. Brichet, the winner, thanks to a penalty. The last time out in Spa in Belgium. And then if we look at 3rd on the grid, there is the 23 car, the Peugeot of Francisco Abreu. So 2nd row of the grid then. Front row is Mora and Brichet. 2nd row of the grid is Abreu and that man Danny Nage I mentioned earlier. Nage, one of 4 Hungarian drivers taking part in their home event this weekend, and certainly seems to have the home support. And then as we look further down the order, there is Danny Nage. So the first 4 places, Hyundai, Peugeot, Hyundai. Then it's Ferenc Fitzer, there he is in the Cupra on row 3. P5 on the grid, and alongside him is yet another Hyundai, that of Rhys Barr. Barr, one of the drivers caught up in that last lap incident yesterday between Mikel Azcona, who's our championship leader, Stefano Camini, who stormed through the field yesterday. Rhys Barr and Camini, I suppose, coming off joint worst. There is Rhys Barr, desperate for a good result here. He's had more than his fair share of bad luck this season. Had an incident here on Friday in free practice where he went off in quite a big way. The car rebuilt by the target competition team in time for free practice 2, but there was an issue with a loose nut in the cockpit, so really only a shakedown. And so Rhys Barr determined to do something similar to that which his teammate Dusan Borkovic did yesterday. Borkovic took his 3rd win of the season. Hugely popular, brings him right back into contention for the Drivers' Series. I'm sure we'll take a look at the point situation in a moment. And at the other end of the luck scale, Josh Files, who I suppose has admitted that his bid for championship glory is now very, very unlikely. Another non-finish from Josh Files yesterday. Contact with Mikel Azcona, breaking the wheel of the Honda, and the resultant puncture meant that Josh Files pulled up and scored no points. Confirmation then of the starting grid for this second race here at the Hungaroring. It's Mora on pole alongside Brichet, Abreu and Nage on row 2, Ferenc Fitzer and Rhys Barr on row 3, Dusan Borkovic and Josh Files on row 4 of the grid. Row 5 is Attila Tashi and yesterday's pole sitter Mikel Azcona, Loris Cenchetti from Luxembourg and Stian Paulsen. Brilliant result from him yesterday. Chris Rickard is alongside Danny Cruz. Mark Jedlodski is alongside Jens Renaud Muller in the Honda. Then it's Stefanowski and Martin Rieber, Maxime Potti and Piero Venet and Comini alongside each other, but both carved their way through the field. And the back row of the grid is Davidovski and Marie Bo Coppens in the second of the DSG cars. Marie Bo Coppens on the podium yesterday. I did say that was for the TCR Benelux highest placed finisher. In fact, she was getting the DSG trophy. The Benelux points went to Jean-Carl Venet, but actually the time it took him to get from the paddock up to the podium meant that we actually missed JK picking up his award. So on the green flag lap then, all 24 cars, and if you were with us yesterday, you'll know that the race threw up a few surprises. Predictions beforehand that the Cupras wouldn't go well here were ill-founded. Stian Paulsen scored his best result of the season. In fact, the best result in any TCR competition, in that he's never been on the podium before in a TCR competition. There is Paulsen in the back in the yellow Cupra, finished second yesterday. Very, very happy, as you can imagine. Borkovic picked his moments. Some very clean overtakes from Borkovic to win the race. And the second Hyundai on the podium, very popular Danny Nage. And I mentioned the driver's points. That's the current situation then. Halfway through the season, 7 races gone, 7 races to go. And it's very tight at the top between Mikael Azcona and Dusan Borkovic. What will happen in this race? In theory, Borkovic has the upper hand. Borkovic starting from P7, Azcona starting from P10 because of the reversed grid. Files and Tashi determined to get good points for the team's competition, and we'll be watching for good starts from both Files and Tashi. Incidentally, yesterday, yellow flags waved at the start. It was because Jean-Carl Venet stalled on the grid from the lowly position of P21. And Jean-Carl Venet eventually finishing the race in 7th. Similar story for Stefano Comini, finished 8th after starting 22nd on the grid. There is Venet, with Comini just behind. And Venet doing 2 competitions this year, doing every round of WTCR and every round of TCR Europe, apart from the races at Zandvoort, which clashed with WTCR. So, was it a wise move to do both competitions? Should he have focused just on WTCR? But the fact that he's still up there, the fact that he's been a race winner, the fact that he's got the only Audi here at the Hungaroring, which is not a circuit that would favour that particular car. I think salvaging useful points from this weekend is his aim. The cars then come round the final corner onto the start grid. They'll form up. And then we have round 8, starting the second half, of the TCR Europe season. Marie Bo Coppens there in the multicolored Cupra slots into her grid position. That's the 24th and final car in position. The marshal with the flag has waved. So watch then for the Peugeot at the left of your screen. Should make a good start. The lights go out. We are racing for round 8 of TCR Europe 2018. And across comes Mora to block. There is Danny Nage moving to the outside of Abreu. So 3 abreast. Going into turn 1, there's slight contact between the Peugeot and the Hyundai. A few cars forced to take to the outside of turn 1, amongst them being Fitzer, as up the inside goes the blue Peugeot of Abreu. Around the outside goes Brichet, but indeed, it's the Hyundai that holds on to second place. Abreu leads. Then it's our pole sitter. Very similar colour schemes on the 2 Hondas. I thought that might have been Comini running wide, but no, indeed. So Mora in a Peugeot sandwich currently. Abreu leads from Mora, from Brichet, from Nage, Files, Borkovic, Tashi, Riespar, Azcona and Fitzer. So Fitzer having suffered at turn 1, Azcona having made up a place. Another one of the Hyundais, that's Stefanovski from Macedonia, running very, very wide, having no real option, I don't think. Abru's lead just over 0.2 of a second from Mora. And the Hungarian scrapping, together with Borkovic in the mix as well. Files running very wide. So look at this. Abru and Mora running very close together. Then there's a slight gap to Brichet, Naj, Files, Borkovic, Tashi, Bar, Athkanar, and Fitzer. That's your top 10 at the moment. Stian Paulsen is 11th. And then it's Danny Cruz. Tashi this time running wide. And a little contact, I think, between Borkovic and Tashi. Tashi holds the position, though, the number 99 car. My apologies, that's Josh Files in the 99 car. It's the number 9 car is Tashi, so it's Files ahead of Borkovic, then Tashi. That's 5th, 6th, and 7th at the moment. Let's take a look back at the start. Now, I was expecting the Peugeot to start well, but indeed, no. Mora comes across from pole, blocks the Peugeot, as Naj switches to the outside of Abru, and then tucks in beside. And you do wonder, as the littlest, slightest touch between the two, they come through turn 1 cleanly. And then this is where the lead changed hands. Abru just pops through the inside as Brichet tries to go around the outside. And that's the reason why Stefanovski ran wide. The result of contact. So back live then. Abru's lead has extended ever so slightly, just over 0.3 now. Let's see what it is as they cross the finish line at the end of lap 2. Indeed, it opens up again. 0.35 of a second, the gap between the leaders. Then there's a slight back to Brichet, then Naj. Files still holding off Borkovic and Tashi. And I do wonder if it was Jedlotsky in the number 20 Cupra that was involved in that little nudge. And there's also contact between Cruz and Vernet. And Cruz runs wide as a result. Was that a little revenge tap, possibly, from Danny Cruz? Just to say, you can't get away with something like that? I wonder if that'll go to the stewards. So Vernet currently down in 17th place, having just overtaken Jedlotsky. All clean so far, no heroics. Also no strange contact in the way that we had in yesterday's race. Josh Files, one of those who suffered, having made contact with Mikael Athkanar on lap 1, coming out of the final turn. And then, oh, there is contact. That was... Oh, and that's yesterday's race winner, Borkovic, running wide. There's damage to the front right of the car. Just as I was saying, no damage so far. The commentator's curse kicks in. Now, is Borkovic going to be able to continue? There is damage to the front of the car. He avoids the pit entrance. So Abru still leads from Mora, Brichet, then Naj is 4th ahead of Tashi and Files, then Bar, Athkanar, Borkovic, who's dropped to 9th. And indeed, Borkovic straight on, and I think this is fairly inevitable. Let's watch this again. And it's Borkovic who turns into the rear of Josh Files' car. And to me, Files was innocent in that move. That was all Borkovic. Possibly a touch of the red mist, possibly going for a gap that wasn't there. But Dusan Borkovic, after scoring maximum points yesterday for race 1, I suspect on course for a DNF and 0 points in race 2. There you see Borkovic on the left of your screen tumbling down the order. The red, and in fact drops right to the back of the field, and I think he's pulled up. Now we're told that the incident is under investigation. The contact between 62 Borkovic and 99 Files is under investigation. To me, that was Borkovic, but let's see what the stewards say. And also under investigation is the contact between Danny Cruz and Jean-Carl Venet. So then, 2 battles going on within the top 4. The scrap for first and second, and then the scrap between Brichet and Nage for third and fourth. Brichet at the moment holding off Nage, who really fancies another podium finish. Brichet forced wide as Nage has gone up the inside, so third place has changed hands. The pair now look at this scrap for third and fourth. Brichet on the right of your screen on the outside of the right-hander at turn 1. Can he cut back through? No, indeed. Nage closes the door. Brichet goes wide, but Nage will again have the line for the left-hander at turn 3. Side by side they go, and watching for contact between the pair. But no, indeed, Nage hangs on to third. So Abreu still leads from Mora. The gap's still 3/10 between the pair. So Nage, there he is, ahead of Brichet. And then Tashi and Files in the 2 Hell Energy Racing Hondas behind. And Tashi now comes into the mix in the number 9 car. So Borkovic in the pits. Target competition guys working away on the front end of the car, hopefully to get him back out. Now, well, let's watch this scrap develop, because I suspect that Brichet isn't finished with things just yet. That penalty yesterday dropped him well out of the points. So the 2 Portuguese drivers, Abreu and Mora, scrapping for the lead. Nage at the moment is holding off Brichet, but the light's flashing on Attila Tashi's car. He takes a look up the inside, goes for it. The pair go side by side. Brichet forced to run wide, and indeed Tashi has just got the position. And also just opening the door for Files. Files just makes contact with Brichet. Nudges Brichet out, and so that potentially is more work for the stewards to be looking at. Was that a racing incident? Let's just look at it again. Tashi's already through. Files is looking for the gap, leans on Brichet. He goes sideways, and through goes Files. From the other angle, I wonder if Josh was just a little premature in going for that gap. So things having changed a little as we look at Jean-Carl Venet side by side with Loris Cencetti. Cencetti holds the position, and JK is forced to run wide through turn 4. And there is our championship leader. We've hardly spoken about Mikel Azcona, who was involved in some of the scraps yesterday after having grabbed a surprise pole position in qualifying. There's Fixer. Stian Paulsen. There is Cencetti with Venet in close attendance. There is Danny Cruz in the Cupra, the predominantly blue Cupra ahead of Cencetti. So that's the scrap for 13th, 14th and 15th. Paulsen currently outside the points in 12th. He'll be disappointed. After that result yesterday, he was hoping for a top 5 finish today. It seems not to be. But the conditions today, very different. Everybody on slicks yesterday on a very wet track. And the lead changes hands. The 26 car Mora has gone through. The Hyundai passes the Peugeot, and so a change of lead. Our pole sitter, Mora is back in front. Let's just take a look at this. Squirreling under braking, diving for the gap, and judged to perfection. So Mora went for the gap, found it, and the lead has just changed hands. So Francisco Abreu, who was leading for much of the race, as Julien Brichet gets a drive-through for infringing track limits. So Abreu now, once again, as in the very first couple of corners of the race, now the sandwich in this Hyundai, the filling in this Hyundai sandwich, it is Mora who leads from Abreu. Then it's Danny Nage. There he is in the number 999 car, ahead of Tashi, then Files. Now, still nothing on my timing screen about that incident between Files and Brichet. Pepe Oriola, keeping a very close eye on proceedings, a regular visitor to TCR Europe, and here to support the Cupra drivers. As Nage just takes a little look, thinks better of it, but surely, as we head into the pits, there is Cedric Pirot. Let's take a look at that. And I thought, just as we cut away from the shot, that second would have changed hands. Certainly Danny Nage is going for it, and indeed goes through, and through to Attila Tashi. So the two Hungarian drivers, and possibly Josh Files, all pass, or not. Abreu alongside Tashi, and is certainly not giving up just yet. So Nage may have gone through into second place, and we thought for a moment that Tashi had grabbed third, but no, indeed, that scrap's still going on. Abreu retakes the position, so Tashi now back down to fourth, with Files just up behind him. Whew. That was an interesting half lap or so. So then, under 10 minutes of the race remaining, plus one lap, remember. Mora still leads from Nage. Abreu, there he is, squirreling under braking for turn one, ahead of Tashi and Files. But Abreu runs wide, still manages to come back in front of the two Hondas, and as Tashi now sees Files go up the inside, and it's Jean-Carl Venet who gets a drive-through for infringing track limits. So lots of scrapping going on for the final podium position. Abreu in the blue Peugeot, still holding on to third at the moment. This is the battle worth watching, though, because Josh Files has just passed Attila Tashi for fourth. Just behind Tashi is Rhys Barr in the Target Hyundai. Mikel Azcona has now also received a drive-through for track limits. So penalties being handed out left, right, and centre by the race director and the stewards. So that's confirmation of Jean-Carl Venet's drive-through. Files just takes a look up the inside. A curious line. And there is confirmation, too, of the penalty for Azcona. Files, though, around the outside of Abreu. Around turn 16. So the leaders are now on their 8th lap. Mora leads Nage by just over 2 seconds. Then it's Abreu, Files, Tashi, Rhys Barr, Chris Richard, Mikel Azcona, who will take that drive-through. Then it's Comini up into the top 10 once again. And then it's Fitzer in the Zengo car, who is currently up into the top 10. And a collision just as Files goes through. A contact between Files and Abreu. Has Files done enough? Just in front of the Peugeot. Files goes through then. Josh Files into the third spot. As Abreu now coming under pressure from Attila Tashi. This is where it happened, coming through turn one. Files having spotted that Abreu tends to run wide at the outside of turn one. Files, though, picks the spot goes through the inside, and now it's Tashi who is threatening Abreu. Reece Barr too, all over the back of Tashi's car. So there goes Files, Abreu, Tashi. Then Barr. Chris Richard, his teammate, now behind him. There is Athkanar bumping through the corner, but Athkanar still has to take his drive-through, remember. And on the left of your screen, confirmation that Vinay has dropped back to 21st, so he will have taken his penalty. Very wide, Chris Richard on the outside of, I think that's turn 7. Yes, indeed. Tashi still threatening Abreu. So Athkanar dives into the pits to take his drive through. So he's currently 8th. That will drop him down to the bottom end of the top 20, I would suspect. Files on the right of your screen, Tashi on the left. Now, has Tashi worked out that Abreu tends to run wide, or has Abreu worked out that that was his mistake? Through goes Athkanar. Another drive-through. Davidovsky gets a drive-through for track limits. At least I assume. This then the scrap for 4th. Abreu at the moment still holding off Tashi, as Files is starting to head off up the road. And to give you an idea of the gaps at the head of the field, 1.8 seconds between Mora and Naj, 3.5 seconds between Naj and Files, and then it's another 1.5 seconds from Files back to this scrap that we're watching between Abreu and Tashi. Behind Tashi, the 2 target cars of Reece Barr and Chris Richard. Their teammate Dusan Borkovic out of contention after what I thought was a rather daft collision, a fairly needless one, when some useful points were on offer for Dusan. Abreu then still holding off Tashi. And Tashi, you'll remember, in the TCR International Series here last year, took two wins, back-to-back victories in the 2 races, a matter of days after his 18th birthday. But it's getting physical now between the pair. A little bump between the 2 of them, a drive-through for Muller, Jens Renault Muller in the Honda. And that's a definite thump from Tashi. Coming out of the final corner, the drag race down the start-finish straight. Abreu has the line for the right-hander at turn 1. Who's going to blink first? Tashi moves to the outside. Abreu moves to cover. Through he goes. Has he run wide? Yes, he has. Tashi goes through. It's happened again. Tashi sold him the dummy. Abreu fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And Tashi dived up the inside to take 4th place away from Abreu. So, Tashi is now behind Files. Let's look at that again. There's a definite firm collision between the 2, but I think that a racing incident. Tashi was trying to avoid running too wide. He moves out. Abreu almost inevitably going to run wide. The switch back there, and Files just avoids Reece Barr as he comes back through. And through goes Tashi. So our race leader is still Mora, 1.9 seconds clear of Danny Naj. Then it's Files in 3rd, Tashi in 4th, just where they need to be to get some useful points. Then Abreu having dropped to 5th, ahead of Barr, Richard, Comini now having gone up to 8th because of Athkanar's drive-through. Then in Fixer and Stian Paulsen up into the points, currently P10. Fastest lap of the race so far set by Abreu, having done a 1:54, something like 2 seconds quicker than yesterday's fastest lap, a 1:56 set by Julien Brichet. Interestingly, Peugeot's having set the fastest laps in both races. Venet at the bottom of your timing screen there, having clawed his way back up into 19th. And Jedlotsky is the man who's dropping back. Danny Cruz has picked up a drive-through. There it is, confirmation for you. 38 is Danny Cruz in the Cupra. Cruz at the moment outside the top 10. So Abreu then holding at bay Rhys Barr and Chris Richard. This now the scrap for 5th, 6th and 7th. And in case you're wondering about the track limit situation here, they have an automated system here which flags up on a screen when a particular car has completely cut the corner. And so there is no interpretation of, I think that was over, I think it might not have been. If the machine says you were over, then you were over. And it also counts up the number of times a particular car has infringed track limits. And so it's a fairly easy decision for Tony Whitaker, the race director, and the stewards to say, that is incident number 3, number 4, whatever. And so black and white flags are the first line of attack, and if it happens again, then it's a drive-through penalty. And I've actually lost count of the number of cars that have been given penalties, something like 6 or 7 now, I think, maybe even more. So our race leader is on the final lap. Francisco Mora is holding off Danny Nage. The gap has come down to 1.3, 1.4 seconds, just under. But it'll be Mira Racing who score a 1-2 at their home event. Mark Jedlotsky out of the car. Currently P21 Jedlotsky. So the perfect result for Mira at their home event. It looks like at the moment, with something like 2/3 of the final lap remaining, that it'll be Francisco Mora who takes his first win of the season, ahead from Danny Nage, who finished 3rd yesterday, potentially 2nd today. Josh Files is on course to finish 3rd. He at least will salvage some points from his visit to Hungary. Attila Tashi is 4th. Then it's Abreu holding off Barr and Richard. Kamini's still 8th, Fitzer is 9th, and Paulsen is still 10th. And Paulsen something like 2.3 seconds of the head of the man in 11th place, Loris Cenchetti. But we'll stay with our race leader. Understandably, we've been focusing on the battles behind, who've given us some fairly thrilling scraps, but the battle for 1st, 2nd and 3rd has now eased up. And so Francisco Mora heads up to turn 16 for the final time. He'll come around this long, long right-hander, the sprint for the line, and the checkered flag awaits. There it is, the checkered flag taken by Francisco Mora in the number 26 Hyundai. The 999 sister car of Danny Nage finishes 2nd, and there are the T-shirts I was mentioning earlier. So a 1-2 for Mira, with Josh Files finishing 3rd, excuse me. Attila Tashi 4th, Francisco Abreu in 5th, then Rhys Barr 6th, Chris Richard in 7th, Stefano Kamini 8th, Ferenc Fitzer, another Hungarian, in 9th, and then Stian Paulsen finishes 10th, and so picks up yet another point. Loris Cenchetti 11th, Maxime Potti 12th, Martin Rieber 13th, Mikel Avkanar, no points, for 14th, ahead of Julien Brichet. Similar situation for him. Jens Renaud Moller, Maribo Coppens and Davidovsky are our remaining runners. And the non-finishers so far: Danny Cruz, Jean-Carl Venet, Mark Jedlotsky, Piro, Stefanovsky and Borkovic. Borkovic only having done 4 laps. So probably a few more post-mortems after this race to find out what on earth happened to Dusan Borkovic. Possibly an attack of the red mist, possibly going for a gap that wasn't there. But understandably delighted with his race win is Francisco Mora in the number 26 car, the Hyundai. So Hyundai, Honda, Peugeot, Hyundai, Honda, Cupra. That's the way the top 10 finished. So lots of action for the Hungarian fans in this second race here at the Hungaroring. And a full day's competition ahead of them. TCR Europe just being a small part of the entertainment this weekend. Thanks as ever to the marshals here at the Hungaroring. They come out to pay tribute to the cars and thank them for their incident-free race this time. The marshals not being called into play, unlike yesterday, of course, when we saw both the recovery teams and the safety car called into play. So, Mikel Azcona, by my reckoning, still leads the championship, but no points for him, no points for second-placed Dusan Borkovic, which means that the others will have had a chance to play catch-up. We'll confirm the points for you in a moment as the cars head for the pit lane, for the podium, for the trophies, and for the champagne. Attila Tashi, the door open, the windows open, trying to get some much-needed cooling air into the car. But Mora, Naj, and Files will be directed by the marshals to park underneath the podium. And that's where our camera is waiting. There indeed is the shot that I was expecting. And you can hear the cheers in the background. Romano, the official TCR photographer, straight in there with the picture of our race winner. And let's see his reaction as he gets out of the car. Being careful to avoid Danny Naj's car, who's pulling up behind him. Delighted both for the pair of them and for the team. So the congratulations of the Mira Racing team. I should imagine that Norby is down there somewhere. Danny Naj, a popular second place, so another podium finish for Naj. There is David Barry on the right of your screen with the sunglasses. In fact, they're all wearing sunglasses, sorry. But David making his way back. And the congratulations between the two drivers. And there is Josh Files. Third will do very nicely for him. Still an uphill battle, though, for Files and Tashi to get their Drivers' Championship battles back on track. Files was telling me earlier that really now it's a matter of getting as many points as possible for the team. But that's motorsport. No points for the first two drivers in the championship. Let's get confirmation then of the result of this 8th round. Mora wins by 1.4 seconds from Naj, with Files third, Tashi fourth, Abru fifth. Then it's Riespar, Chris Rickard, Stefano Camini, Ferenc Fitzer, and Steven Paulsen rounding off the top 10. Outside the points, Loris Cenchetti, Maxime Potti, Reba, Azcona, Brichet, Moller, Bo Coppens, and Davidovsky. Cruz and Vernet, I suspect, will be classed as finishers, as will Jedlotsky because of the 75% rule. Piro, Stefanovsky, and Borkovic, sadly, outside that 75% cutoff points. So then, confirmation that it's still Azcona who leads Borkovic by a solitary point. Danny Naj, though, is now 25 points behind Azcona. Files is now 44 down. Vernet, 50 down. So, at the head of the points table, things are looking very interesting. Right, let's talk to our race winner. A very delighted Francisco Mora is with Fabio Ravaioli.
Francisco Mora, congratulations, your first victory in TCR Europe, and it was a great race and a fight with your fellow Portuguese driver Francisco Abreu.
Yes, it was very, very good for me. I knew that I would have a very good car during all the race. We worked for it during free practice, and also the team has a very good setup here. So I knew that I will have the greatest conditions to do a good result. When the beginning, my Portuguese friend overtook me, I tried to go behind him to don't lose so many time with battles. And when I saw the opportunity, I overtook him and got away a little bit, and then just managed the gap. I knew that Dani will be very fast at the end, as it was, but the gap was very, very big, so he was not able to catch me. But anyway, it's a very, very good result for the team, 1-2, and I'm very proud, very happy, and yeah, I hope that I can get more wins and more podiums. That is my first podium, but also my first win. But I'm very, very happy, and yeah, that's it. Thank you a lot. Obrigado.
Obrigado, Francisco. And I know that two of the countries with a great presence on social media are Portugal and Hungary, and they'll be going crazy. Let's just relive some of the highlights from that race. Let's just recap the drivers' points one more time for you. 50 points now separating the top 10. But Vinay finishing outside the points. Tashi 52 down, but fourth place will have certainly helped him today. And it's also about confidence, remember, that Tashi and Files have had their share of bad luck in recent races. At least both of them finished this time, and both of them finished in decent points. Let's head for the podium. Podium ceremony left on this live feed from the Hungaroring.
Kedves nézők, következik akkor a TCR Európa Kupa második futamának ünnepélyes díjátadója. Remélem, hogy nagy tapsal fogunk köszönteni minden egyes versenyzőt.
And there are the Mira Racing guys waiting to greet their two drivers out onto the podium. So, third place, Josh Files from the United Kingdom driving a Honda. There is Josh. Okay, Danny Naj for Mira Racing. And that's a popular second place. And Francisco Mora for Mira Racing. Big beaming smile. Careful, Francisco. Big beaming smile as he pulls up into the top spot of the podium. Very nearly takes a tumble. There is David Bari to represent the team. And then the DSG trophy this time goes to Ferenc Fitzer in the Cupra. Ferenc finishing in 9th. And then Stefano Camini takes the TCR Benelux trophy as the best finisher. So for the first time this year, the Portuguese national anthem is played at the end of a round of TCR Europe. And as I was saying a moment or two ago, the Portuguese fans always very vocal on social media. And so watch for their comments and those of the Hungarian fans in the same way that the Serbian fans were all over social media last night congratulating Dusan Borkovic on his victory. Second for Danny Nage. And from my position at the top of the grandstand, across the track from the podium, I'm looking down. All the fans beneath me are on their feet, congratulating the team and Danny. Congratulations too for David Barry, for the team. And the two DSG cars sharing the honours this weekend, in that it was Maribo Coppens who picked up the DSG trophy victory yesterday. And in terms of the TCR Benelux points, yesterday it was JK. And today he's managed to make it from the paddock up to the podium. So we do get a TCR Benelux trophy presentation this time, and it goes to Stefano Camini. So photograph time next.
Gentlemen, please get together for the official photographs.
Oh, one of the bottles of champagne, already a casualty. Okay, if you don't want to be sprayed, leave the podium now. So that was round 8 of the 2018 TCR Europe Series, and yet another new winner. Congratulations to Francisco Mora, congratulations to Danny Nage, and congratulations to Josh Files, and of course the Mira team. Thanks for your company this weekend. We do it all again next month. Bye-bye.